I'll do it.
Yeah, listen, I'm an actor. I mean, I'll go wear whatever they want or not wear whatever, No, it was very Shakespearean in a way. We were dressed up in these bizarre costumes. When you finally see it, you know what's wonderful about the original Tron? Nothing in science fiction looks like it to this day. It's that unique. You know what I'm saying? It may seem old school in many ways, but it's still so unique to look at it.
Yeah, Lisberger was really, he had that vision, and none of us really had any idea what it was going to look like. Isn't that true?
Right.
And so we were just following his lead, including the kites, and it was the first time I ever saw a storyboard, for instance. Now you do storyboards for everything, right?
Yep.
He would call you over and say, this is what this scene is going to look like. And you'd be in a room like this with just a platform, and he'd show you. Really
Thank God we had those too, because Stephen, God bless him, he's a wonderful guy. He's kind of Yoda now.
Is that right?
On the set of Legacy, he was there telling old stories all the time. But great, because he had all input in it. Look, Tron Legacy was made by grown-up little boys who played Tron when they were kids. Now they grew up to make their own Tron movie. They were all a bunch of little excited fanboys. It was great. I mean, when Jeff or I walked through, they parted waves. They almost bowed, It was very a heady experience, But Stephen, what was I going to say about Stephen? No, he just had this vision, and he was very lucky that this major studio, no one else wanted to do this, and I did, Disney gets slammed a lot nowadays because they're the biggest dog in the game now. They have Marvel, they have Star Wars they're going to do now, and they've had some setbacks lately. Some films haven't done so well, but guess what? They still clean up in the DVD market and everything else.
It was a real break for this program.
It was a huge break, and the studio in those days was really failing. It had some major bombs. The son-in-law was running it. The son-in-law of Walt Disney, Ron Miller, and he was more interested in sports pages. And Harrison Ellenshaw, who was the effects supervisor on Tron, he was the son of a very famous matte painter and special effects man, Peter Ellenshaw. Harrison tells the greatest stories about how Tron was really made. Everyone thinks it was computer-generated animation. There's maybe 20 minutes in the entire picture, 2-hour picture. If it's that, it's an hour or something. I'm not sure. The rest of it was old school hand painted. Every cell of you and I in the coloration of our outfits and glowing and everything, all of that was hand painted in Taiwan by hundreds of Chinese people.
Old style Disney.
Seriously. And he said he would go into Ron Miller's office and say, this is our problem, we have to do it this way, we need to do it in a timely fashion. They didn't know at first. I mean, this was a really incredible. I just learned this stuff, Peter, that they didn't know what to do. We have thousands and thousands of cells that need to be colorized. We'll never get it done because the computer thing was very slow still at that time, doing all that. So they figured we'll get a bunch of college kids on summer break in a big auditorium. These were some of the brains and we will have them all sit down, and they'll each get about 62,000 frames. Paint them all. And then this is the problem. How are we going to get that many college students? They were trying to figure, how do we get a mass of people able to paint all en masse? How are we going to get this done? And then they said, then we're going to have to feed all those people lunch. I'm serious. Harrison tells us that. So they decide, they contact this in Taiwan, and they said they would have many, many people, artisans that could do this. So he needed $3 million. So he goes to Ron Miller. Ron Miller's behind his papers. He's got his feet up on the desk, and all he saw was, what do you need it for? Okay, do it. Back behind the paper again. And so they send in stacks all the cells of film to Taiwan. They're painted. Guess what happens? Well, this is a true story. They got stacked wrong, and they were still, everything was wet. when they returned it. They had hundreds of people doing all this meticulous painting, and then they sent it back, and it was all crushed together. He had to go and ask for $3 million more. That movie, it was a disaster and behind the scenes from the word go. It is one of those wonderful stories that this thing was a pioneering effort. We really didn't know if it was going to work. And all of us sort of jumped in and tried to make it work, and it did work ultimately. And we're talking about it today in a panel in Galveston, Texas, and it's 31 years ago now.
You got that from reliable sources. They gave him.
I was there when he told the story.
And they gave him another $3 million.
He gave him another $3 million, because now we were sunk. It had to be done.
Wow.
And so a lot of Tron was all old school hand painted, like Peter Shaw Harrison's father had done with all these great Academy Award motion pictures and animated pictures.
There was a feel. What's amazing about that is that now $3 million is kind of chump change. But for that project, I mean, it was risky doing that project, and there was a feel about Lisberger and the producer, who was in
Don Kushner, yeah.
That it was kind of like a lark. This was fun, we're going to make a movie. This will be great. So, I mean, that story is amazing.
I felt like we were in like this pioneering effort, and they weren't sure if this was going to work.
Yeah.
How it was going to come out. So it was kind of a fear, too. That one night we had so many lights on one set and it could have been the set you were on. I'm not sure. Your game, the game, what was it called again? The Ring Game. There was such a bank of lights that we had a brownout at Burbank when they turned them all on. Did you know that? That's a true story. And that's on the 20th anniversary DVD special features that they literally, there was so many lights that, and the lights dimmed in all of Burbank, California.
That's great.
I'm sorry, everyone's leaving. It's just the wrong panel.
He asked one question about tights. That's all.
One question about tights and people are leaving. Anybody else? Yes.
You're saying that it's one of the first movies you worked on storyboards about. Before that, you were doing films mainly with practical effects. How was that the change different? Like, was there a lot of imagination you had to do? Was it more challenging as an actor or as actors in this film than ones you had done beforehand? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, I think one always has to use their imagination, but when you're, especially in the science fiction realm, it was better you had to see something. Because we had no idea. We were in a solid black stage, solid black, and it was made of a material. It was kind of a velvety material.
They cleaned it. They had to keep it really clean.
And to keep it very clean. We couldn't get sweaty. That's why we had numerous outfits. We had to change it as soon as we started to perspire through because we were under such heavy lights, so warm in there. Once in a while I had to go outside, just step outside the soundstage and see a green tree or something. It was black and white. That's what it looked like. And so the storyboards helped us because Stephen was a more technical-oriented guy. Okay? He really didn't have a lot of experience with actors. I'm not saying he was bad at it, but to help, he needed that aid to get across what we were doing. Yori and I are climbing up this huge cable thing. It was nothing but a big black platform. What was that going to look like? And so it gave us. It helps. It helps great deal. When you're doing when you're doing an episode of Scarecrow and Mrs. King, that was all there. It was real life, and not an imaginary thing. When you're doing something in science fiction in another world, another realm, sometimes it's great to do that. I know Spielberg really did that in every movie he made. So it gives the actor just an idea, okay, this is my frame.
It was like playing, for me, and I think this is true because nothing was there, it was like when you're a kid and you play games. That's what it kind of felt like, and I thought it was easier. I mean, not easier, it was a similar process.
I love it.
But how Bruce just described it is really it. They'd say, you're on a ring game, and this is dropping. It was all like make-believe, and, like when you were a kid. So the process felt pretty easy and natural to do. You just played along. As I said, we were following Lisberger's instructions, If you bought into that, then you bought into the whole thing and you just followed that.
Now, did he have you with a guy named Sam Schott when you guys were throwing? Because you were throwing an imaginary. Yeah, right. You had like this big highlight type of things. I actually had to dodge that this guy was throwing at me. And they were hard plastic frisbees. This is a little pliable plate that you get at a gas station or on the beach. These were those hard, like bowling ball hard plastic things, hard plastic. And he would get all sections of the stage. He would run around. This guy was Sam Schott. He was I didn't know there was a champion frisbee guy. You know? Really? I mean, there's a championship with frisbees. You know, run, fetch, you know, with your dog. Anyway, and he would throw that thing so hard. So all those things you didn't see going loop to loop all over the place. You look at the old triangle. Everything was coming straight at me. That was the real deal. Somehow takes he hit me so hard, I'd flatten to the floor and zoom, it'd go right over me. And my proudest take is they kept in there, I literally, defiantly, Stephen was getting mad with it. He would get up there, he got up on a ladder. And so he started throwing them down at me. Past my head. And I'm dodging them and stuff, and at one point, one came right at my head, and I slightly ducked, and I caught it in back of me. It had already passed over my head, and boom, I grabbed it. And I basically went.
That didn't make the movie.
No, it didn't. Well, I was holding on to that when I brought the disc down, and the look on my face, I was giving it the camouflage version. You know? Because he tried to take the top of my head off with that. So, it was fun.
Jeff and I, they just put us in that main room, and it was all imaginary. You know, what was interesting, that obviously only shot one of us at a time, but, you know, we would play together, and Steve would talk us through it. He'd say, it's going up, and then you'd make believe you'd catch it, and then you'd make believe you'd throw it. It
was a ball. And, you know, it was, but as I see, you were Crom. I was Tron. I was supposed to be the greatest at this. I had to, on lunch hour, when Jeff got to go off with his Walkman headphones and listen to Talking Heads, I had to go on my lunch hour and train with Sam Schott and be running around the empty soundstage with this guy trying to hit me. And me fire back, and Steven Lisberger going, "You throw like a girl. Come on, throw that thing like you have a pair." He did. He found that was, you know, he was like some football coach or something. Wow. He's out there screaming on the sidelines.
That's what he was doing for University.
Trying to really egg me on and get me mad, and I got mad. I threw it back at him a few times. Hell with Sam Schott. I threw it at Lisberger a few times. But we kissed and made up. Oh, that's wrong. No, he's great, and you know, he's a fantastic artist now. He's a sculptor. I mean, it's a great guy.
Any other, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Why did you